We have sound, we're good. Okay. Pia patcha b'chachma, v'torah chesed al lashona. Her mouth is full of wisdom, the Torah of kindness on her tongue. Ima, how many times around the Shabbat table we sing that phrase to you? The phrase that always brought a smile to your face. But only now do I really realize the great wisdom in it and how it epitomizes your life. When I think about my mom's wisdom, one important lesson comes to mind. She always told us it's important to do the best you can do and try your hardest. As long as you try your hardest, the actual result doesn't matter. My mom had a special gift of connecting with people. She was always smiling. People were always laughing with her. She was never haughty or judgmental. She was willing to speak with and able to become friends with anyone. When she flew in for our wedding, she became friends with all of Sharon's family. Even though she couldn't speak a word of Hebrew, and they couldn't speak a word of English. She even became best friends with Sharon's deaf aunt, and planned to go back and visit each other in America and her here. The second part of this topic speaks about kindness on her tongue. My mom did not just have kindness on her tongue. She took the kindness a step further and had a higher level of kindness. No matter whatever someone needed, my mom was there to help. Would always do it with a smile. The words, no, I can't, or find someone else were not in her vocabulary. Even if it was something difficult or hard for her, that didn't matter. I remember when I turned 16 and got my permit, my mom was always willing to let me drive and go driving with me. Only afterwards, when I noticed the handle of the passenger door was breaking from my mom holding it tight and being terrified, and that it was so difficult for her and she was so scared. But she never said a word. She was always happy and would always let me drive. Throughout our childhood, my mom was always, and still now, my mom was always there for us. Whenever we needed help, even, money or help for the wedding or apartment, she always gave us money. She didn't care that, her money was for us, to make us happy and to do whatever we needed. Whatever was needed, she would do it for us and for the family. She would always do it with a smile. From taking care to all his 4 small kids at home, even going back to work when we needed to so that we would have money to pay for our Jewish education. And her field of work, she worked in special education. That was not easy. Working day in and day out with the kids, lifting them, taking them to the bathroom, very difficult and took a toll on her. But it was always important to her to help them, and she loved and deeply cared about the kids. It didn't matter to her. She always worked with the kids and cared about them, never complaining, always had a smile. Only now do I really realize how much you gave of yourself to us. Thank you. That Torah Chesed, that amazing level of kindness and connecting with people that you exemplified is the key. It gave you the ability to laugh and smile till your last day. That's what gives you a garment of strength and dignity to bring with you the next world, and for us here to continue your legacy of happiness, laughing, smiling, goodness and kindness in this world. And that's actually, if you look at the pasuk beforehand, speaks about that. Oz v'hadar levusha v'tischap kliyom acharon. Ima, we love you and miss you.
Mom, I just want to thank you for being the best mom ever. Without your confidence and belief in me, I know that, me and Chua and Nelson and Sarah would never have been able to achieve all that we were able to achieve in our life, and that you loved us all very much. And I know, besides for loving Daddy and us, you loved people that you didn't necessarily have to love. You really, really, really looked at your kids' families as your own. I know, again, that they may not realize it, but I talk to you all the time, and you would always tell me how wonderful they were. You used to tell me that Sharona was so nice, and I know how excited you were at the henna party that you almost put the henna on her face instead of her hands, and that would have made pictures a lot more entertaining, but you just loved Sharona and her parents. And I know Ilana, she always thought you were the smartest person ever. She loved to tell me after you got your PhD that there are now 2 Dr. Mandels in the family, and when Shua sent her a letter saying that you had a publication in a manuscript, she couldn't stop talking about it for weeks. It was the highlight of her week. And then Susan, I know, my mom loved talking to you, and she always said, Susan's tough, but that's okay because I know she loves me. And I know she always said how beautiful you were in your wedding dress. And not last but not least, Dave, she always would like to say, Dave is my favorite son-in-law. I think she was kind of joking, and I'm sure Dave would say, well, there really wasn't much competition. But I know she appreciated all that you did for Sarah and all the grandkids that you gave her. And, again, I remember when you asked if it was okay for Lily to speak, I couldn't believe it because I know if Mom would want one person to speak at her class, it would be Lily. She loved Lily, and she appreciated all the times that Lily would come to the phone and talk to her. And she loved talking to all your other daughters. And every Friday when I would talk to Mom, I didn't need to call Shua or Nelson because she would tell me what Haleli and what Ori was up to and what Ashi and what Aaliyah was up to. Mom really lived for her grandkids, and I know that her favorite presents that we ever gave her were her blanket with all the pictures of other kids on her, and her video machine that we would send pictures to that she would watch and sit and watch those pictures. And I remember I used to try to buy Mom presents. I bought her a bracelet or a necklace, and she never wore it, not once. And I would, for her birthday, I would draw her a picture of her and Taylor, and she'd put it up on her door, and it would sit there for months after her birthday. And I never understood it, and I never got it. And then, I had a daughter, and now Augie has a framed finger painting. So I understand now how amazing it was to have something, and that love for somebody. You just loved all your grandkids. And I know that you loved Augie. We used to talk to you in the morning, and then after we would talk to you, I'd like to see what Augie's going to wear today. So then I'd have to keep you on the phone and show you what Augie was wearing, and then I'd say, we got to go, and then you'd say, but Sabina hasn't had a chance yet to say hi to Augie, and then I would get a call at 5 or 6 at night saying, hey, I know it's kind of late. You think it would be okay if I talk to Augie before you go to bed? And I'm like, Mom, we talk to you every night. Of course it's going to be okay. But she called every day, and she loved her grandkids. I want to thank my dad. I know it wasn't very easy when she was sick to put her in the nursing home. And I know it took a lot of time and effort for him, and I really appreciate her being able to do that for her and be on call and be there for her for that. I want to thank Sabina for all her hard work. I know she would call me at 7, 8 o'clock at night and say, Sabina's not answering her phone. And I'd say, Mom, she's not working. And she'd say, no, we're sisters. It's okay. I love her. She loves me. And I'd say, oh my goodness. And I know that she loved that you were able to come take her to Houston and take her to visit everybody in Toronto or Israel, and you're really an honorary member of this family. She loved you, and she loved Michelle. I also want to thank Shopsa Liss for coming and spending time, and Susie Liss for coming and spending time with you after Mom passed away. Mom saw a lot of doctors, but I told Susie there was only one doctor that she trusted and liked, and that was Susie. And I want to thank Ginny Rosenberg and Marvin Rosenberg. She loved shopping with Ginny, and one of the highlights of her years was always the Passover Seders and hearing Deborah answer my dad's questions at the Passover Seder. She loved that. And then I also want to thank my father-in-law, Alan and Amy, for helping with the flight arrangements. And you know, she loved all her in-laws, from Greta to Alan and Sharona's parents and Adrian and Bernard. She didn't have a bad word ever to say, and she loved to talk to them as well. You know, I think Mama would always talk about how she looked forward to being with Bubby Goldman and Zadie David, and I like to think now that she's with them and she's happy, but I do want her to know that even though she's up there with them, she'll always still be down here in our hearts.
One of my earliest memories of my mom is when she was working in daycare in the JCC in Dayton, and I was in one of the older groups, and I used to ask all the time to get a drink of water from the water fountain. And I would do that, but on my way there and sometimes on my way back, I'd stop by and visit with my mom, even though she was working. And eventually, people who were watching me caught on to the fact that I was taking these, little breaks, and they asked my mom to speak to me about, following the rules. And I remember when I was talking with her, it came up the issue of failure. What happens if I fail? What happens if I don't do what I'm supposed to? She told me, it stuck with me for the rest of my life, and she told me, I will always love you, you just need to try your best. My mom lost her dad when she was about my age, and I was really little. About the age of my baby daughter now. And I know my mom tried her best to pass on his spirit to me. And she even, when she went to go visit him the last time, she didn't even have a picture of me, but she showed a picture of my brother. Something, just to give him a sense of who I was. And I really felt like, even though I never met my grandfather, that he was a part of my life just because of the way that she told stories about him and past memories of him, and the way that she lived her life, the way that her mother and her father taught her to live. And I know that, like my brother said, she's not really gone, that part of her is still with us, and all her family and all of us are going to do our best to pass on her spirit and her memory. And I see it. I see it in all of our kids. I see it in all of us. I see it in all of her friends. She started off as an only child, not a lot of family. And she was able to, build all these relatives, everybody who was family to her, that she cared about deeply. It didn't matter if you were a blood relative or a friend. She cared about everyone so deeply, and people cared really deeply about her. And she and my dad really taught us what it meant to be, a devoted spouse, devoted child, a devoted parent, and a devoted friend. Things were not always easy for her, but she always did her best to have a smile. I look through the pictures from her throughout the years, and every time it's consistent. All the happy times together always has a smile. It's almost a laugh, because she couldn't. The love and the joy would just pour out of her, and she just loved being with everybody. And even in the tough times, she was able to work through it and get to a place where she was happy again. Because, as a wise person once said, sometimes in life they hand you trouble. What you worry, you make it double. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, Mom. We're gonna try our best.
Okay. I'm going to say a few words that my mother-in-law's very good friend, Fran Ash, sent, and I really think it captures so much of my mother-in-law's life and her love for life and her happiness. It is with great sadness that I sit down and try to write something to express my feelings and reactions to the loss of a very, very dear friend, Marlene Mandel. So many of my memories of the last 47 years are intertwined with Marlene and Stephen. When Marlene and I started to work together, I knew who she was because we both attended Stern College for Women together. I was 2 years ahead of Marlene. But what I did not know was what a beautiful neshama Marlene had. Her kindness glowed wherever she went. Children loved her, adults loved her, her health aide, Sabina, loved her. As a colleague, she was able to relate to students who were difficult to have in the class. She made each child feel as they were the most important one in the class. What a gift, one that I did not possess. As a friend, well, I can only recap some of my most vibrant memories. How she went off to Maimonides Hospital on May 9th, 1977, in a snow squall to give birth to Nussin. How Marv and I were his godparents at his bris, which was held at the Young Israel of Forest Hills. The Suda, however, took place in their apartment. It's hard to remember the good times with Marlene and not include her Ish Chaya, Stephen. Shopping trips were always an adventure, and that was in the days before Costco and BJ's. We'll never forget that infamous Shabbat afternoon call of, "Hey Fran, throw down the keys." Marlene, Stephen, and Nussin and Silver Cross carriage would make their way up to our 6th floor apartment, and the good times would begin. Playgroup was fun for the children, but even more so for Marlene. She had so much nachas from watching happy toddlers play. Summer trips to West Hartford were always something to look forward to for her. Her frequent phone calls and visits to our home over the years were upbeat and fun and something to look forward to, especially with Stephen in tow. What can I say about Stephen? As well as I thought I knew him, I never really knew what a giant of a man he is. He protected his wife, he supported her and made her smile. He made sure that every one of her needs were not only met, but exceeded. You don't always have to say I love you to know that you are loved. Many of my calls to Marlene were punctuated with a short conversation with Stephen. I would always try to end with, "I love you, Stevie," and he begrudgingly answered, "I love you too." Marlene, I will miss you. I hope and pray that you are at rest now, that your mom and dad are there to comfort and continue to shower love on you, and that the Mandels are there to direct you to the Kisei HaKavod, that you may receive the honor that is due to you. To the whole family, I would like to say, Hamakom Yanachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar Avlei Tzion B'Yerushalayim. Shabbat Shalom. Do you want to speak?
I think it's important to recognize, do Hakar Satov to Sabina Dill. I couldn't have taken care of her without Sabina. I mean, Sabina was just a wonderful caregiver. I mean, there were times when, she could work with Marlene because she was in pain. It could be frustrating, and sometimes we didn't realize, being there all the time, you don't recognize the progression of the illness that she had. I mean, looking today at the videos of Shua for 2020, and how unfortunately her body just started to deteriorate, and not understand when she said she was in pain, and we'd ask her, what are you in pain for? She just couldn't describe it. So I just gave her some Tylenol. I mean, I didn't know what else to do. Towards the end, she didn't want to go see doctors. There's only like my children have mentioned, the only doctor that she would listen to was, the only doctor she would consult would be Susie Liss. And once in a while, Dr. Yaakov also, until he says something that she didn't agree with, and then forget it. But she was a fighter in her own way. I mean, she just hung in there because she, I have to, I have to say, I have to thank her so much for having such wonderful children who married such wonderful husbands and wives, and not only that, but their parents are wonderful also. We've always had just very positive experiences with all of them, whether it's Adrian and Bernard or Greta and Alan or Yossi and I always forget. Shula, yes, Shula, or Alan and Amy. You know, they were just always just wonderful, and it speaks well of them also. What you know, how well they trained their children as well. I also would like to thank all of Marlene's friends who were able to come today. As I mentioned before, she loved watching Facebook, and 30 Seconds with Mayor was one of her highlights of the week, and just going through Facebook and seeing all of you and doing the videos or seeing the pictures. She just lived for that. And you don't realize it. How could she do it? You know, she just hung on because she loved all of you, and you know, and sending the pictures. How many people could sit in a chair every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, losing your mobility, losing your your body succumbing to rheumatoid arthritis and a blood disorder, and she just hung in there. And she had a tremendous amount of strength, and I just wish that at times I had shown her more compassion and more understanding of what she was going through and what she deserved how she deserved to be treated. You know, I also want to thank Dr. Marlene Kleiman because of all her other doctors besides Dr. Jake and Dr. Ilana and Dr. Susie. Marlene Kleiman is a real mensch, and he really cared about my wife and tried his hardest to keep her going as well. So thank you, all of you, and thank you, Marlene, for giving us a wonderful life and wonderful children. You're the one that did it, and you did a tremendous job.
If it's better.
Very much, Joanna Stanley, for coming today. They're tremendous friends. Well, when they moved to Israel, their warmness and kindness is much appreciated, and we love them. And of course, all Candy and Susan, and Ben, and Alita, and Dovey, and Rita.
Okay, I think we're on a little delay.
Yeah.
My parents met at Camp Shalom. My mom was a junior counselor and my dad a counselor. When I was little, I would ask my mom to tell me the story. My dad would say that it was love at first sight, while my mom joked that she had lots of boyfriends. My mother hit the jackpot when she met my dad. She found someone who would take care of her and support her in good times and bad. My mother could always count on my father, whether it was helping her dissect a frog in her parents' backyard or caring for my grandmother when she came to live with us. My mom was an only child, and she could never understand why my brothers and I would fight. She would tell us that she would have given anything to have a sibling. Being an only child, she loved her parents dearly. She was very close with my grandmother, and they spoke at least once daily. Back then, long distance was very expensive, so we had to let the phone ring 3 times, hang up, and my grandmother would call back. My mother loved both of her parents dearly and took their deaths very hard. After my grandmother passed away, my mother told me she was an orphan. I assured her that was not true. We were her family. She was not alone. My dad always says that he doesn't have a favorite child. He loves us all the same. While my mother's favorite fluctuated depending on who had been the nicest to her that day. Although I know it was Jake's, and rightfully so. My brother Kay was a package deal. Him and my mom. There was nobody whom my mom trusted in more and turned to more for advice, love, and support than Jake's. And turned to more for advice.
only girl in the family is what made me special. Being the only girl in the family is what made me special. My mom was often more of a friend than a mom. My mom was often more of hours than a mom. Shopping, looking for a bargain. She was the person who woke up with me at 5 a.m. on Black Thursday to line up to get giveaways and deals and went on long walks with me on Shabbos. My mother was beautiful. That's a little girl. My mother was beautiful. As a little girl, I look at the picture of her and my dad at her senior prom, or the wedding photo where she had her long straight hair curled up. Or the wedding photo. It's hard now to look at a picture of my mother from my wedding and see how difficult she has had for the last 7 years. From my wedding. And see how difficult my incredible father took care of her. With Sabina's help, day in and day out, at all hours of the night for the last several years to make sure that she had what she needed. At all hours of the night for the last several years. Sabina was more than a caregiver. She became a part of our family. The sister my mom had always wanted. Sabina was more than a caregiver. My mother was a yes person. She didn't know how to say no to people, and she would give you the shirt off of her back. It's hard to believe that 6 out of the 7 voicemails on my phone won't be from my mom asking me to call her back, or there'll be no more messages on the answering machine saying, "Hi, it's Ima and Abba. Can we talk to the girly girlies?" Nothing brought my mother greater joy than her grandchildren. She loved talking to them on the phone or FaceTiming. She was happy just listening in to whatever we were doing at the time. My mom did not just celebrate her birthday. She did it for the entire week or month. I was trying to figure out what to get her this year. It makes me happy to know that my mother is finally no longer in pain and is reunited with her dear parents. I will miss my mother very much. I just hope she knows how much I loved her and how much I wish I could be there now.
Really?
Lily, go ahead.
Despite my grandparents living so far away, I got to talk to Bubby almost every day. Hearing Bubby call would brighten my day. We talked about everything from Lego sets to school, and she was always happy to talk. Whenever we came to visit her in Chicago, it was impossible to wipe the contagious smile off her face. When we were in Chicago, I always brought her little arts and crafts like bracelets and drawings, which she loved and cherished even though they were little and simple. One day I wished to be as enthusiastic and joyful as her. I wished that while I knew her, she could have been healthier, so I could have been with her at her best. But now I know that she is not in pain anymore. I just hope she knows how much everyone loves her and misses her.
Go closer.
Closer.
I love my puppy so much.
Louder.
I love my puppy so much. She is so special to me. I would talk to her on the phone for hours. She told me that she loved me so much. And when I talked to her, she would tell me that I would make her day, and that made me feel so special. I went to Chicago. Whenever I went to Chicago, it would be so nice to see her in person instead of on the phone. And I am sad that she is gone, but now she is in heaven with her parents and is not in pain anymore. But I'm going to miss her very, very much.
I think Penny's speaking still.
How would I know that? They asked you to unmute. Okay, I can. All right.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's confusing to me. Whenever I called Marlene, she would always say, Susan, my favorite sister-in-law. As basically I was her only sister-in-law, I didn't know how to take that as a compliment. But the truth is that what she was saying to me is, you're important. I'm so glad to hear from you, and I love you. She made it clear to all of us that each of us was special. She valued her family, and she wanted to speak to everyone often. From her command center in that chair in her living room, she stayed in touch with everyone, and she wanted the best for everyone. As I understand it, each person has a purpose in this world. If Marlene's purpose was her family, then that purpose was fulfilled. To have a husband who took care of her, 4 wonderful children, and beautiful Stephen, all of you kids, all of you in-law children, she leaves you her love, and that will always be a part of you. Go ahead, you're on.
I don't know. Everything's been said today about Marlene that everybody gets a pretty good sense of who she was and what she was about. I also remember the first time meeting her too, and I was like, "Oh, who's this person that Stephen's bringing home? Why is he?" And since that day, again, like never a sad face, never, always happy to see us. She invited us to her home. Her parents, they also, Bubby G and Zadie, they were just special people. And I don't know what else to say other than we're going to all miss you.
נשבור ואנחנו נמלוכנו. והנה אדוני אלוהינו עלינו מעשה ידינו כוננו עלינו מעשה ידינו כוננהו יושב בסייסר עליון בצל שדי סלוינונו ימר לאדונו ימחסי ומצודו סי אלוהי יפתח בוי כי הוא יצילכו מפח יכוש מדבר אבוי בעברוסו יוסך לוך וסחס כנופוך תכסה צינו וסויכירו אמיתוי לא יסירו מפחד לא ילו מחצי ויומום וידבר בו יפל יהלוך וכתב ישודת צורוי יפועל מצדך אלף ורבבו מימינך אלך לא ייגוד רק בעינך סבית ושפילו מעשרה שוין תראה כי אתה אדוני מחסי עליון שמתו מעינך לא יסעוני לך ונגלו יקרבו עליך כי מלוכו ויצא ולוך לשמורך בכל דרוכך על כפיים יסעונך פן תיגוי בו אבן רגלך על שחל גופסן תדרוך תרמוי ספיר וסנין כי בחושק ואפלתהו אסגבהו כי יודע שמי קרואיני ועיניהו עמנו כי בצורח על צאו ואכבדהו אוי רך יומי מסביעהו והראו בישוע סיה קביו בן מעלה לאלוהימר יסתכל בפלישות בורים ועינתו בו לידי אווירו דע מאין בוסו לאנתו ילך ולפני מיעתו ציד לפני דין וחשבון מאין בוסו צרוכו לאנתו ילך למקום הפורים ובסוילאו ולפני מיעתו ציד לפני דין וחשבון לפני מלך מלכי המלוכים הקדוש ברוך הוא והוא רחום יכפר ובוין ולא ישחיס וירבו לו שיבחוי ולא יועיר כל חמוסוי
יתקדר ויתקדש שמי רבך ויאמר דברך יוסי וימליך מלכותך ויצמח פרקני וקרב משיחך וחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה וזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהי שמי רבך ברח עולם ומאומיה יברך, ישבח, יפאר, וישמע, וינשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתעלה, שמי קדושה בריחו. ואלה מכל תשוחתה ונחמתה, תמרה ואמר וברור אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים טובים אמן על כל ישראל וברור אמן. עושה שלום וברורה וברחמים עלינו לכל ישראל וברור אמן.
בבקשה להיכנס לכלי הרכב, אנחנו נוסעים כאן שמאלה בערך 500-600 מטר.
יהודה לקח לי את המקום. עוד פעם יהודה.
תמיד יש לה דינמיטריות, או שזה באולם תלוי, או שבגשם הם הולכים עם המטריות. הוא גם בא?
לא, יעקב תפרק את הכל.
גבאי, גבאי.
רגע. We're on the way to the burial site.
אשת חיל ממצא ורחוק מפנינים ממכרה, בטח בלב בעלה ושלל לא יחסר, גמלת הוא טוב ולא רע כל ימי חייה. זמר ופשתים ותעש בחפץ כפיה, הייתה כאוניות סוחר ממרחק תביא לחמה, ותקם בעוד לילה ותיתן את טרף לביתה וחוק לנערותיה, זממה שדה ותיקחהו מפרי כפיה נטעה כרם, חגרה בעוז מותניה ותעמד זרועותיה, טעמה כי טוב סחרה לא יכבה בלילה נרה, ידיה שלחה בקישור וכפיה תמכופה לך, כפה פרסה לעני וידיה שלחה לאביון, לא תירא לביתה משלג כי כל ביתה לבוש שנים, מרבדים עשתה לה שש וארגמן לבושה, נודע בשערים בעלה בשבטו עם זקני ארץ, סדין עשתה ותמכור וחגור נתנה לכנעני, עוז והדר לבושה ותשחק ליום אחרון, פיה פתחה בחוכמה ותורת חסד על לשונה, סופיה הליכות ביתה ולחם עצלות לא תאכל, קמו בניה וישרו בעלה ויעללה, רבות בנות עשו חיל ואת עלית על כולנה, שקר החן והבל היופי שהיראת אדוני היא תתעלל, תנו לה מפרי ידיה ויעללוה בשערים מעשיה. עקביה בן מהללל אומר, הסתכל בשלושה דברים והנה אתה בא לידי עבירה, דע מאין באת ולאן אתה הולך ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון, מאין באת מטיפס רוחה ולאן אתה הולך למקום עפר רימה ותולע, ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יעיר כל חמתו. אדלר, יש לך קדיש? נגידו קדיש לאט לאט. ביילך,
מריam
ביילך, לקצו בקונים.
כי מלוכו ויצא ולוך לתמוך בכל דרוכך.
כי מלוכו ויצא ולוך לתמוך בכל דרוכך. מריam ביילך אסרב.
דוד יואל.
דוד יואל.
קח את זה קודם, רגע, קח את זה עד זה.
What happened? It doesn't matter. We were watching romance. I didn't play like basketball, but then Daddy would tell me sometimes he'd be up late at night. You know, I could watch the same basketball game early in the night.
זה היה פשוט ישר, יפה.
She's like, Mamma Mia.
הוא רחום יכפר עבוד מן היחיס. יבוא לו שיחוי ולא ישום חמסוי.
והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. אתה רואה מזל שהרצפה רטובה? הנעליים שלך כבר מוכנות לשבת. אל תעמוד על האפר, זאבי. תתחיל מהקצה, יהיה לך יותר קל. זאבי, תתחיל מהקצה כאן.
זאבי. מחר רוצים קח מהקצה, צד ימין, מה שיותר ימינה. מצוין.
נתחיל מהקצה, כן.
חצי הזאת.
לא צריך לסמן, יש ליד קבר.
הבנתי.
שזה הראשונים. עוד קצת, תוסיף עוד קצת. תוסיף עוד קצת, זה... זהו, ליישר. ריקי, ליישר. לא לזרוק. קצת לשם וקצת ככה. בדיוק. לא, זה וי. מה ששמת כך לשם. עוד. זהו. עוד קצת, צביקי. לא, הפוך. כן. מכתם לדוד שומרני אל כי חסיתי בך, אמרת לה אדוני אתה טובתי בלעליך, לקדושים אשר בארץ אימה ואדירי כל חפציבם, ירבו עצבותם אחר מהרו בלהסיך נזכם מידם ובלשא את שמותם על שפתי. אדוני מנת חלקי וחוסי אתה תומך גורלי, חבלים נפלו לי בנים אף נחלת שפרה עלי. אברך את אדוני אשר יעצני אף לילות יסרוני חיליותי, שיביתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד כי מימיני בא למות. לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי הבשר ישכון לבטח, כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת. תודיעני אורח חיים סובה שמחות את פניך, נעימות בימינך נצח. קדיש. אמן. אמן.
יתברך ושבח יתברר יתרומם ינסה יתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שני קודשת ריחו נעלם מכל ברפתה ושירתה ספרפתה ואמר אמן. יהי שומר רבא משמיים לחיים טובים עלינו מלכו ישוב אמן. ועושה שלום ואומר הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ושוב אמן.
אמן. מרים בילה בת רב דוד יואל, בשם החברה קדישה, בשם המשפחה, הקרובים, הידידים והמלווים, אנו מבקשים ממך סליחה ומחילה, שמא חס וחלילה פגענו בכבודך הן בטהרה, בנשיאת המיטה ובתיקון הקבר, אנא סלחי לנו, כי אין זו אלא שגגה. החברה קדישה נהגה איתך כמנהגי ירושלים עיר הקודש. הנה מליצת יושר עבור משפחתך, קרובייך וידידייך, ועבור כל כלל ישראל בכל תפוצות ישראל. ויתן השם ויבולה המוות לנצח, ומחה השם אלוקים דמעה מעל כל פנים, ובא לציון גואל במהרה וימינו אמן. לכי בשלום ותנוחי בשלום ותעמדי לגורלך לקיץ הימים. כשנצא מחוץ לחלקה באזור הכביש נעשה 2 שורות גברים לניחום אבלים לבעל והבנים. כן.
קיבלתי את הברינות, שלחתי את הבת, לכי תברינות, שלחתי את הבת. אני באתי לקרוא לגבי הלגעת
Thank you so much for everything.
We're still on. Oh. It's okay.
היה בכבוד, וצרפת,
Don't. Not going in the middle. Not the distance.
רגע, יצחוק, תהיה סעודה עמוד פה. תבוא לפה, תבוא
אמרתי מנחם אתכם כל שעה, זה ציון ירושלים.